Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Sivonnia DeBarros.
Hello, everybody. I am Sivonnia DeBarros, the protector of athletes and the founding and principal attorney of the S.L. DeBarros law firm. I am so excited to be back with you guys in the new year, 2023. Woot woot, shout out. I hope that you guys are setting your intentions and really diving deep with them so that they can guide you for the remainder of this year and into the success that you desire for yourself. So before I move into our topic for today, for powerful legacy protection moves for athletes, I would like to just, put a shout out there for Mr. Hamlin. He went through a lot. And so today's topic is really inspired by him and so many athletes that have suffered traumatic brain injuries, and some of them who have succumbed to their injuries. All right, I remember being in. Let me back up for a second, guys, because some of you might just be tuning in and you don't know who I am. It's a whole new year now. So let me just tell you a little bit about who I am. So as you know, I am the protector of athletes, but I have also been featured in the news and media around supporting athletes and business owners. And I have a special invitation for you. How can I forget that, guys? Oh my goodness. All right. So I have a special invitation for you. We are in full swing of planning our 2023 NILCOMBINE event. So if you are a student athlete, an athletic director, a coach, and a parent, if you are in any way, shape, or form, you could be an agent as well. So if you are in the camp of supporting and protecting athletes, I want you to join me because this event is, when I tell y'all, is dope, not because I'm the creator of it, but it's so dope because we bring experts from various industries together to give athletes and those who are supporting them in-depth information to help them leverage, monetize, and protect their name, image, and likeness. People are so one-sided with NIL. And so my whole goal is to be able to charge them, provide them with real critical information that will break social barriers for student athletes. That way they have the ability to really profit from their name, image, and likeness beyond the game day. All right. So listen, if you are ready to mind your athletic business before someone else does, and that is trademark, guys, come to the NILCOMBINE 2023 live event. All right. Registrations are now open. We are in our second wave of the increased rate. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and book your seat right now so you can take advantage of this promotional rate, okay? Because it is going to change. The rate is going to change. So go ahead and register right now at bit.ly/NILCOMBINE 2023. Make sure NILCOMBINE is in all capital letters. All right. So as I was saying, guys, today is inspired by Hamlin because I recognize that not only are athletes underestimating the things that could happen to them, but I can also say that when you come from certain communities, you may not have access to information that other people do. And that means to really be able to set your family up or your kids up in a way where if something happened to you, they wouldn't have to worry about anything. All right. And so I want to make sure that you guys have the right tools to be able to not only just build up the legacy that you want, but to also protect it. All right. Also protect. And I'm going to give you some ideas on why this is important or some examples of why this is important. Okay. So 4 powerful legacy protection moves for athletes. And we are definitely going to be talking about basically estates. All right. Estate planning. People don't really think about what estate planning is, because sometimes, and you might be thinking this too, why would I need estate planning? I'm not old. I don't need a will. I'm not going to die anytime soon. Okay, you might not be old. You might not die anytime soon, but we don't know that. But what happens if you are in critical condition? Who is the person that has been appointed to care for you, to make critical decisions on your behalf? And those decisions could also mean making decisions about the financial responsibilities that you have. Who would you trust? All right. Like, that's how deep it gets. Who would you trust? And on top of that, if you have kids, so you might be a young person, you might let's say you're 20, you're in your prime, maybe you got drafted early to the pros, you have a young child, you're not married, okay? And something major happens to you. It is essential that all that you've worked for is protected, to be a legacy, the foundation, the bedrock for those you care for, if you were not to make it out of whatever is happening to you. All right. So, 4 powerful legacy protection moves I want to discuss today with you is: 1, having a power of attorney. Do not underestimate that. 2, having a will, and this will break down in 2 parts: a last will and a living will. Okay. And fourthly, having the proper succession plan. All right, here we go. Let's dive in, guys. Let's dive in, because I want to make sure that you're really, really, really getting this. All right. So let's recap really, really quick. Power of attorney, last will and testament, living will, and succession plan. All right. Now, power of attorney. Power of attorneys are so important. You can give someone full control over everything if you wanted to. You can add multiple people or alternative people. You can create conditions in a power of attorney, just to make sure that there's balance, and the person or the initial person you appoint as a power of attorney does not abuse their right. Okay. You can also put this in a power of attorney form. Now, essentially what a power of attorney is, and I know we all have heard it in some respect or another, and we have our ideas about it, but let me just tell you, power of attorney is the legal ramification of giving an individual the opportunity to step in your shoes to take care of certain matters that you provide them if something happened to you while you were still living. So, case in point, and I said that this episode was inspired by Hamlin. He suffered a brain injury on the field. Okay, so him in that situation, I'm thinking of who is the person that has been appointed to make critical medical decisions on his behalf. And if he remained in critical condition for an extended period of time, all right, who would be that person to continue making decisions on his behalf? So we can create medical directives. We can create financial directives where we appoint certain people to do certain things in the event something catastrophic happens to us. If we fall into a coma, if we are now in a position where we can't make sound decisions anymore, then you can use the power of attorney form to direct individuals to perform certain duties or tasks on your behalf. Now, the caveat is you got to make sure you trust the person. And this is one reason why some power of attorney documents have multiple power of attorneys listed. And power of attorneys are just the person, the agent basically, that you have provided this permission to. They are essentially your power of attorney. So some people will have multiple at one time that can do the same thing. So that way, all of the decisions can be a status quo. There are some, the way that you can draft it is, you could draft it as, okay, I'm just going to have this power of attorney on this issue and another one on this particular thing. Or you can have alternates. So let's just say a power of attorney that you had, that you decided to be your power of attorney back in the day. Let's say they passed away. Well, you can name an alternative so that you will have that coverage. Let's say your initial power of attorney didn't pass away, but maybe there's some impropriety that's going on with your estate, your financial planning, your business decisions, whatever they may be. You could put a provision in your power of attorney that allows now the alternate power of attorney to step in to be able to make decisions on your behalf. All right. So every state has rules around power of attorney. You're going to want to look those up for your particular state. And then we will move on to wills. Now, wills it's important, but it's not going to be the thing that will prevent someone from suing your estate in the event you pass. One thing that you can do, and we'll just put this one in as a bullet point under the wills, but it's having a trust, making sure that your assets are placed in the trust. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more under the succession plan. All right. So there are two types of wills you can have. We're most familiar with the one where it's like, oh, this is my dying wish, right? Your last will and testament. But there's also something called a living will. A living will. The difference is the living will mandates the things that you want to happen during your life. So if you are in a position where you are unable to make certain decisions, you can mandate that X, Y, and Z is to take place in the event I am unable to make this particular decision. And who would be that person to really make sure that those decisions are made properly. Now, as we know, our last will and testament is, what is my dying wish? Who do I want to receive my property? Where should things go? What are the conditions that I want to put in my will if someone, breaks a promise to me or does something that is not congruent with how I've lived my life? Typically, you will make those particular wishes inside of your will. Okay. Now, the biggest mistake people make, and I'm going to say athletes too, and guys, guess what? Some of the most popular entertainers have died without wills. And it gets so messy. So messy. So the biggest mistake that people make is, one, not even having a will. Two, failing to update a will if they have one. And three, not including everything that they own in a will. So what happens when you don't include everything in your will? The rest of the property that you have becomes residual property, meaning it's just leftover property. So the people who would be your heirs at law meaning who's your next of kin at the time of your death, they will be able to split whatever the assets are or the value of the assets equally. Okay. So let's put it in an example for you. If you pass away and you have a will, but your will neglects, let's say you have residual income from book sales, or you have residual income from sponsorship deals. You got this major sponsorship deal and you're constantly making money off of that. Let's say you have a lifetime earnings of sponsorship deal and you fail to add that as an asset in your will. But inside of your will, you said that there were only 3 people who were going to be the beneficiaries of your will. However, there's way more than 3 people who are technically your heirs at law. And in fact, let's just say that the 3 people that you named aren't really your family. Okay, maybe you're maybe you've had a bad relationship with some people in your family. Maybe maybe you're on bad terms with siblings or parents, or, maybe your upbringing was they weren't the people who raised you or who took care of you. And so maybe you're leaving things to someone who really stepped in to help you. All right. So if that is our example, and then you fail to add your residual assets, excuse me, not your residual, your sponsorship deal assets, your recurring income from that into your will, now it becomes residual property, meaning the people, your family, whoever is next of kin at the time of your death has the ability to split those assets or the value of those assets equally at the time of your death. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about how do we protect people how do we protect our legacy from being swarmed up by people we don't know, even if they are family. Look, there is some family I don't know who they are. But if my parents were to pass before me, and all my siblings were to pass before me, and let's say my nephews and nieces, and they've married, we're 2, 3, 4 generations down the line, I don't know who these folks are, right? So you want to think about having a business succession plan. If you are an athlete and you are making money from your athlete status, if you are making, first off, let me just say this. If you are paying taxes and you have expenses from being an athlete or whatever business type of activities you're carrying on, you need to have a business, because one, it's going to save you from tax liability. All right. So let me just drop that nugget. But on top of that, too, when you have a business, you can really start to protect your assets a lot more, especially those business assets. You can protect those business assets more when you start separating them from your personal assets. You can protect them as in a business if they are business assets. All right. So you want to have a succession plan. A succession plan is typically, you want to be able to identify the qualified individual who will jump in your shoes if you are in a position where you are unable to run your business, critical condition, or you have passed. That way, your business continues to run and continues to make money. All right. So when you set up a succession plan, you're able to really set out, okay, here are the steps and the guidelines of how to do this thing. So someone who's coming in, they're not starting from scratch. It's not like they don't know anything. They're already and should have already been trained to know how to properly run your business. But now let's go back to trust. Let's go back to trust, because trusts are a powerful tool, not only to keep your business assets out of litigation in the event someone wants to challenge it, but it's also a great tool for your personal assets. When you have a trust, you want to make sure that all of your property, all of the assets that you own are dumped inside of this trust. You can name exactly the person and the percentage that you want them to take in the trust. But caveat, these also still have caveats. You have to review your trust documents. You have to update them. Okay. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bob Ross, but Bob Ross, the painter, had a trust that he drew up for his son. He named his brother and gave his brother 51% of the trust, essentially to protect the assets and make certain decisions, because the brother was going to be the beneficiary, not just of, the trust in a sense, but kind of like the trustee, to make sure that things were going to go right for the child. But what ended up happening was Bob Ross never updated the trust. And although he was trying to protect his son's interest by naming his brother, by the time years have gone by and people are taking advantage of Bob Ross, even on his deathbed, and when the pedal really hit the metal, Bob Ross's grown son has nothing, because the brother, who had 51%, went into the trust and sold everything. right from out underneath the brother. Now, yes, I mean, from underneath his nephew. Now, Bob Ross's son, he could file suit against the brother, but then the question becomes like, what outcome am I going to get? So you still need, the moral of the story is you still need to be cognizant about who you name in the trust, what percentage rights you give them, what powers you give them, and who you name as your trustees, because the trustees have powers to go in and do certain things with the trust. All right. So still, you can't just set things and leave it. You still have to review, update, and make sure that it is in alignment with the direction that your business is going and is in. Okay. Every year at a minimum, you should be reviewing those documents. So let's just recap for 4 powerful tools that you should be using as an athlete for legacy protection is definitely make sure that you have a power of attorney. Make sure you have a last will and testament and a living will and testament. And also think about your business succession plan. And bonus point, think about having a trust so that you can protect your assets from litigation. All right. So guys, look, I got to remind you again, I would love for you to learn more about powerful tools like this, not only how to protect your assets in the time of really catastrophic events, but also how you can leverage your name, image, and likeness to monetize it, to do all sorts of things with it. Let me tell you this. I have been successful in doing what so many student athletes are trying to do and want to do. And I want to help you to get there. So I invite you to join me for the second annual NILCOMBINE event. It's going to be live in Chicago. I can't wait, in July. Go ahead and get your tickets right now. Registrations are open. Visit bit.ly/NILCOMBINE 2023. Make sure that is in all caps. And guys, I will see you later. Ciao.
For joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Sivonnia DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.